My best friend was jealous of me, so she planned my downfall in front of him. Now I'm being sued. I should never have drank alcohol. I knew what imbibing in drinks meant, but I had accepted the drinks from my friends not knowing they wanted to see my downfall. In my defense, I hadn't known it was alcohol. They wanted to sell me short to my husband. Not they, though, the person I had called my best friend my whole life. She wanted what I had, and her jealousy led to my downfall. I had accepted drink after drink from her, thinking they were non-alcoholic. I should have tasted it. I had blindly trusted in someone that I thought was always going to be in my corner. Now I was facing a lawsuit and divorce, and my whole life had been turned upside down. I really need help on what I can do to reverse the clock. Reverse the clock to the time that bitch and I became friends and make sure it never happened. I had trusted this girl with my life. She was supposed to be my ride or die, but all of a sudden she wanted what was mine and decided that she could throw me to the wind. Was this how friends was supposed to act? Never trust, that's what I'll tell you people on this goddamn internet. Never trust. Here's what had happened. I had followed my friend to a bachelor party because she had said she needed a +1. I had done it without thinking. I just thought my best friend needed help, so I was going to help her. I went without telling my husband, who had gone on a business trip. I had babysitters come to my house to watch over my son. My husband wasn't going to know I had snuck out of the house, and my baby was in safe hands with the babysitters I had hired. I didn't know it had all been a setup, and I had fallen right into the trap. I got to the party with my friend, and she greeted the people she knew, introducing me to all and sundry and saying I was as single as a horse. I told her to stop it, but she continued with the joke. I had forgotten my wedding band at home, and that had made my friend's joke all the more believable. Don't get me wrong, I had taken the band off when I had wanted to take a bath and then had forgotten to put it back on. I truly didn't mean to forget to put it on. I hadn't even known who had been doing the party. I had just known it was a bachelor party thrown for an acquaintance of my friend to celebrate his last single day before he got hitched. You may be wondering if it was a bachelor's party. Then why had chicks that weren't strippers been invited? Yeah, I had been wondering that too. But my friend goes ahead to tell me that the person the bachelor party was being thrown for was gay, and he didn't have any issues with women. My friend was even part of his groom train, and that was why I was her +1 to the party. See, there was nothing weird there. Nothing weird to make me become suspicious of the fact that my best friend wanted to set me up. The party had started out low-key with everyone keeping to themselves. But then my betrayer of a best friend, who was ever the extrovert, got up and took control of the party. She made sure everyone was linked up with someone in the club. I guess I forgot to mention that the party was at a club. Everyone got talking, and then the drinks started flowing. I didn't want to drink because I knew how it was for me when I drank. So when a drink had been pushed to me twice, I had declined. I claimed that I wanted a fruit drink instead, and my best friend had offered to go get it for me. According to her, it was the least she could do since she had dragged me here all the way out of my comfort zone for a party. Again, I hadn't seen anything wrong or weird in the way she was hovering. She had been my best friend. She loved to hover, so I thought everything was normal. It was the process. I drank the mocktails she had claimed were mocktails after I had asked her like 100 times over. It didn't take long for the alcohol to kick in, and everything began to seem blurry. The next thing I knew, I was dancing, and everyone was so hilarious. I couldn't find my friend anywhere, like she had disappeared from the club, and all around me had just been guys. I tried to get away, but the drink had seeped into the part of my brain that processed and interpreted the movement of my limbs, and I remember falling into a guy's lap and laughing at something hilarious that he had said. The next thing I remember was waking up in a bed that wasn't mine, and I found my husband glaring at me from above. I looked around, and my surroundings weren't looking familiar, so how come I was here? I had been so confused, and my husband had not offered any answers, just shook his head and walked out on me. I had made to follow him, LOL. This was when I realized that I was completely naked and horror gripped my body. It was then I became aware of the situation and what my husband must have seen. I was supposed to be home taking care of our son, but I was in an unknown house completely naked in a stranger's bed, and my husband had caught me. It looked like I had cheated on my husband. Well, I had no idea if I had actually cheated because I didn't know what had happened. I had taken a couple of drinks I had thought were non-alcoholic, and I broke down in tears that day. My sim was my life, and my husband was searing contact between us. I got back to my best friend's home, and she had been waiting for me outside. You guys would keel over if you heard why my so-called best friend had been waiting for me outside to get back. According to her, I had finished her cereal, and she didn't like it. The witch hadn't even waited for us to get inside her house. She had just laid it out on me right in the yard. I was so mad because of the frustration and yelled at her, and this witch ordered me to leave her house that she had tolerated my ass enough. This was someone who I had taken into my home. If she came into my home, she could have anything she wanted, and here she was, kicking me out over a finished cereal that I had planned to get a new one. To say I was shocked was an understatement. I was slapped with surprise by her actions. But I guess I should have seen it coming. I really should have seen it coming. During my stay, it was like she was edgy, always wanting to know my every move, always following me around her house and putting back things into place that I had taken even though I put them back. She would claim that I hadn't gotten the positioning right, and she had finally had enough that she wanted to throw me out of her house. I went with my dignity, Lowell. Never in 1,000 years did I expect this from her. I remember when I had become friends with her in high school when she was a new transfer student eating alone on her table. I had also kind of been a loner in my school, so I had decided to make her my friend so we could be together. We became fast friends. I'm 28 years old, and that means I've been friends with her for more than 11 years. We went to the same college, had been in the same sorority group, and everyone knew us as inseparable friends. This God's forsaken fool had also been with me when I had met my husband. I'm half British, so the way I curse is different from you folks, seeing as I had been raised by my grandmother. Let me tell you the funny story of how I met my husband. My husband is 32 years old and studied business analytics at our university, Pepperdine University. However, he had graduated by the time we met, through a date. My best friend was the one that was supposed to G on the date. I know it all sounds cliche, but this was what had happened. She didn't want to go on the date and begged me, even though I also didn't want to go. She begged me to go in her stead, that she would do the chores for a week, and my best friend had hated chores back then, so I knew she really didn't want to go to meet with this guy. I went for the date, and that was how I met my husband. We talked, and although I didn't like him at first because there was this other guy that had my attention, he was sweet. We exchanged numbers, and we talked on occasion and went out randomly. He showed up for my graduation from college, and after a week or two, he asked me to be his girlfriend. This was about 5 or 6 years ago. I agreed to go out with him, and my best friend had no issues about it. She was even strongly behind our relationship and said she had dropped my soulmate right into my hands. I guess I owed her that much for not going for the date that day. But let me confess, I never really liked my husband in the first years of dating. He was commanding and always told me what to do. It was like he was an alpha boss, and I didn't like someone telling me what to do, but I stayed. Why I stayed? I have no idea. I just know I did. And after 2 years of dating, he asked me to marry him. Our wedding was great, and I got to know I was in big soup when I tried to pay for my room with my card and my access was denied. This was when I realized shit had gotten real. My husband had blocked all access to his account. Now that wasn't fair in the slightest because I also had money in that account. How could he do that to me? I had purchased a new phone, and while I was still thinking of what to do, I got a call from my best friend that there was someone in her house who wanted to see me. I had to walk to her house because I had no cash to pay for an Uber. My situation was so laughable, and it pained me because I was suffering this without knowing who had been at fault. The house I woke up in had no owner. The drinks that had alcohol in them had probably been put in by one of the men at the bachelor party. I didn't know it was my best friend that had done everything as it then. I got to her house and found my husband's lawyer waiting for me. I had been all sweaty from the trek, and my best friend had the gall to laugh at me. It began to dawn on me that she really didn't mean well for me. I was a fool to have trusted her. My husband's lawyer gave me divorce papers and told me that I had no right to any of his accounts again, and that I needed to sign some papers to remove my name from account beneficiary. Then the one that shocked me the most was when he said I needed to sign over custody of my child to him, meaning I wouldn't have any claim on my child, nor would I have any claim on his money. I got livid and demanded that I must see my husband if I was to sign the divorce papers. It wasn't fair to me that he wanted to do all these to me without asking me why or what had actually happened that night. He was jumping into conclusions and wanted to ruin my marriage. The lawyer said that wouldn't be possible, and I told him that I wasn't going to hand over custody of my child, nor would I sign any divorce papers. He was stripping me bare. I didn't have anything again to look forward to in life. My grandmother was dead. My son was the only family I had, and my husband wanted to take that away from me, all because I had been too drunk to realize what I was doing at a party. The lawyer sighed and wrote down the address and told me when I should come by the house on the day he would be there so we could settle the case amicably. Obviously, I didn't listen, and that was when the whole truth cleared before my eyes. I went to my husband's house 2 days before the proposed date, and what I saw shocked me to my bone marrow. My best friend was riding my husband in my marital bed, and they saw me and kept on at it with my best friend giving me a smirk while shouting at me to give them some privacy. I wanted to run away from there, but I couldn't run. My son wasn't in the house, and if I wanted to run, I would have done it with him. Everything my best friend did and said finally replayed back in my head. How she always claimed she was the one that had given me my husband. How she felt entitled to his money. How she always thought she could control me in my home. The drinks at the bachelor party, she had brought them straight from the bartender, so there was no way that any of the men at the bachelor party had put drugs in it. When they finally came out, my husband dropped an envelope in front of me and I opened it. This was when I realized that my best friend had stabbed me in the heart. She stabbed me with a sharp knife and something I would never be able to recover from. It was a DNA test saying my son wasn't my husband's. Yes, that was true, Redditors. But that doesn't matter, or it didn't matter back then. He was my husband's son by heart. My husband had been there when I pushed him out and everything. I had been in love with another man when I married my husband, and yes, at the beginning I had married my husband for the money, but it wasn't my fault. I needed to taste the luxurious life and still feel love. I guess I wanted to eat my cake and have it. And I had successfully done that until my best friend ripped my wound out in the open. I tried to get down on my knees and explain to him that it hadn't been like that I loved him and was ready to do anything for him when he brought out another envelope and gave it to me. Before you guys judge me, I was under the mental influence of my best friend and my lover then. They had led me to believe I could take my husband's money and run away, but I stopped when I found that I loved my husband. I didn't go through with the plan that my best friend had come up with to move some of my husband's money to an account and then run away. I had been a beneficiary of 2 of his accounts, and my husband didn't care what I did with his money. So my best friend had come up with the idea to move some of the money to an unknown account and then run away. And then we split the money. I saw in the envelope the account name and number of the unknown account, and inside was a phone recording of our plans. My best friend had made it sound like it was my idea and she was just playing along. There was nothing I could do or say to redeem myself in front of my husband's eyes. I begged, and yet he was unmoved. Had what I had done been so grave? I gave him a child, didn't I? Even though it wasn't his, didn't every man want a child? I took the divorce papers and had been about to leave his house when I heard police sirens at the front door. He had called the police on me, when I hadn't done anything. According to him, the only way I could get the police off my back was if I signed the divorce papers and signed over custody of my son. I signed the documents because I didn't want to end up in prison. I didn't even know stealing his money could land me in prison. I hadn't even been thinking. After I signed the divorce papers, my ex-husband now showed me that I had been a fool. He didn't call back the police, but called them in to arrest me and my best friend. A befitting end, some of you might think, but karma wasn't done with me. My best friend went into hiding after she had been questioned the first time for her fraudulent activities, leaving only me to be under police scrutiny. Luckily, I hadn't done anything, and I had told them the truth. The account wasn't signed under my name, and I got off with community service for 3 weeks. I had been a victim, and I had learned my lesson big time. I hope you guys learn never to trust people. Yes, I had done some pretty terrible things, but I was getting slapped for that now. Hopefully I make it out of this regression period in my life. I want my husband back. Update, I'm good now and I vow never to do anyone evil anymore. I'm working for what I have, but I just told my story so you all would be careful of who you trust. I don't need to get my husband back, but if there's any way I can get suggestions and tips on how to plead to get back into my son's life, that would be much appreciated. Life can be funny at times. The one who we trusted the most might be the one to betray us without thinking twice. I never expected things to go this way. I know I messed up, but I don't deserve what my mom and husband did to me. Thinking about everything now sends shivers down my spine. I don't even know where to start from, but I guess I'm going to start from the very beginning. All you righteous people out there, before you judge me, make sure you don't have a skeleton in your cupboard. Hey Reddit, my name is Taylor, not my real name though. For the sake of privacy, I will be using fake names. I'm a 30-year-old realtor. The name of my husband is Smith. He is also 30 years old and we have been married for 2 years now. My husband is a tech specialist, which makes him always busy. He is also on his computer, and even though he works from home almost all the time, we hardly spend time together. It's been like this ever since we got married. I thought it would change, but it got worse as time passed. I thought I made the right decision by marrying Smith, but honestly, I regretted my decision after the wedding when I saw how Smith was with his work. I regretted leaving my boyfriend Timothy, who was my childhood lover, for Smith. I guess I was so enticed with Smith money that I left the man I have known all my life to marry some random dude who I dated for just 6 months before marriage. I met Smith at a friend's party, we got talking, and somehow I ended up on his bed. I thought it would just be a one-time thing, but after seeing how wealthy Smith was, I made up my mind to keep him. But for some reason, Smith was not interested in having a relationship with me. He told me I should forget what happened between us that night and that it was just a fling with no strings attached. I wasn't bothered by his words at first, but when I dug into him and found out he was from a rich family, I got upset and I picked interest in marrying him. I told my mom about him, and together we came up with a plan that would make Smith mine forever. Since Smith didn't use protection that night, we decided to forge a pregnancy result which confirmed me to be 3 months pregnant. I waited for 3 months before I showed up at Smith House. He was shocked to see me and even got another shock when I told him I was pregnant. He didn't believe it at first, but after I showed him the pregnancy result, he was flabbergasted. I don't want to bore you guys by going into details about how everything happened. Maybe another day I will write about it, but for now, let's just concentrate on why we are here. So that's how I got married to Smith. Immediately after the marriage, I lied to him that I lost the pregnancy, and that was it. That was the beginning of my nightmares. My marriage to Smith was just formalities. He never loved me nor cared about me. He always believed that I married him for his money. I was lonely in the marriage, no intimacy, no communication, no nothing. Worst of it all was that we had separate rooms. Smith was always locked up in his room, and the only people allowed to enter his room were the domestic staff. I was just another statue in the house. The more I tried to get close to Smith, the distance he became. When I look at him, all I see is hatred that he has for me. I bet he never actually forgives himself for drinking too much that night. Even though I have some regrets for forcing Smith to marry me, a part of me is glad I married him. Getting married to Smith changed my life in an instant. I moved from a shared apartment to a luxurious mansion. Even though things didn't happen exactly how I planned, I'm grateful a part of it worked out. I thought Smith would fall in love with me after the marriage and we would live happily ever after, but that wasn't the case. Smith despises everything about me. Even when I told him I lost the pregnancy, he was indifferent about it. I don't blame him though. My mom practically blackmailed him into getting married to me with the pregnancy. After 1 year of going through torture in the name of marriage, I opened up to my mom and she advised me to go and have fun once in a while. I took her advice and started going out to clubs. Somehow I started sleeping with different men at the club. I felt bad at first, but after some time I got used to it and continued sneaking out to meet with my affair partner. Smith didn't even notice anything because he was always in his room and didn't care about me anyway. Everything was going smoothly. I was beginning to feel good about myself again, and life was beginning to make sense again. While all this was going on, I never imagined Smith was taking notes and was fully aware of my every move. Never in my wildest imagination did I imagine the Smith was watching me closely and was setting traps for me to enter. One day I called my mom and informed her that I was traveling with my affair partner for a 6-week vacation. I had earlier lied to Smith that my company was sending me on a 6-week business trip, and as usual, he just shunned me and walked away. At that point, he was conflicted on whether to go on with the wedding or just call everything off, but he decided to proceed with the wedding to teach me a lesson I would never forget in a hurry. I was too stunned to speak, and so was my mom. He told me he had been carefully planning his revenge all these years and was only waiting on the right time before he unleashed his venom. He also made known the fact that he had tapped my phone. Smith threw me and my mom out of the house, but here is the most absurd thing. The money he used to lure my mom into his bed, he took it back. I was shocked, but I was happy he took back the money. After seeing how serious Smith was, I knelt and decided to plead for mercy, but he got angry and gave me a hot slap. He also pushed me away and asked me to leave with my mom before he did something stupid. While I was gathering my things to leave with my shameless mother, Smith's lawyer arrived and asked me to sign the divorce papers. At that moment, it dawned on me that what I feared the most in this life had happened to me. I never wanted to be a divorcee like my mother. My dad divorced my mom when I was 3 months old, claiming I wasn't his child. I don't even know if I'm truly his child. I don't even know if the story is real because I've tried to reconnect with my dad on several occasions, but he always shunned me out. I hated him all my life and always blamed him for my predicament, but after seeing what my mom did, I think she is capable of many evil things. Another reason why I didn't want to get a divorce was because Smith and I signed a prenup before the wedding. I never liked the idea, but Smith was adamant about it. At that point, I made up my mind that I would never divorce him for any reason. I told the lawyer I wasn't ready to sign any divorce papers and that nothing would make me divorce Smith. At that moment, Smith brought out his phone and showed me my nude pictures. He must have gotten them from my phone. He also showed me my mom's naked pictures, which he took. He told me he would post everything online and tagged it like mother like daughter if I refused to sign the divorce papers. I got scared because posting that picture would ruin our lives forever. Even my mom fell on her knees and begged me to just divorce the lunatic. I didn't have any choice at this point, so I painfully signed the divorce papers. I gathered my stuff to leave, and shockingly, Smith took the car keys from my hands and asked to leave with only my property. I mean, the car is his, but I have been the one using it ever since we got married. Pray for me, guys. I need a miracle to happen so fast. I don't want to lose my marriage. Update. Hey Reddit, I'm back again to continue my story. It's been months ever since I wrote my story here. First of all, I want to correct the impression that I married Smith only because of his money. A lot have called me a gold digger and all sorts of unpredictable names. But for the sake of posterity, I want to categorically state that I didn't marry Smith just because of his money. I married him because I saw a future with him. And even though my approach was wrong, my intention was never wrong. It seems most of you read with comprehension. The only reason I cheated on my husband was because my love for him wasn't reciprocated, not because I didn't love him. With that being said, let me update you guys on what has happened so far. So I signed the divorce papers, and soon the divorce proceedings started. I wasn't mentally prepared for the divorce because I was still hoping for a miracle to happen, but unfortunately, that never happened. Smith made it clear he didn't want to have anything to do with me ever again. The divorce proceedings were over, and at that moment it dawned on me that I practically ruined my life. I went from living in a luxurious mansion to living with my mom at her mobile home. I couldn't even afford to live in a shared apartment. Nothing made sense to me anymore. I was a shadow of myself, and living with my shameless mom in the same house made everything worse. Waking up every day to see the face of a woman who betrayed my trust was harder than I imagined. I don't think I would ever be able to bring myself to forgive my mom for what she did to me. No mother who truly loves their child would stab them in the back like that, although she has apologized to me countless times for her despicable acts. I still can't bring myself to forget the whole incident. The whole thing keeps playing in my head over and over again. She always says it's the devil's work and doesn't even understand what came over her, but I don't believe any word from her any longer. I'm still trying to pick up the pieces of my life together because thanks to Smith, I got fired from my place of work. Somehow Smith managed to call my boss and told him he was interested in a property, and he was willing to pay up front. But on the condition that he fire me, my boss didn't even think twice about the offer as he fired me immediately. I never knew Smith was capable of such a dubious character. I can't believe I married a monster who was pretending to be an angel. It was when I got fired that it dawned on me that Smith was out to frustrate me. But I managed to get a job as a sales rep in a bakery. The job is below my standards, but at least it puts food in my mouth. That's all that matters at this point. I'm just taking one day at a time. Update. Hey, Reddy, I'm back. I didn't even get the dress I wanted. Everything was on budget. Smith claimed he wasn't into all the wedding ceremonies and stuff, and that all that matters is that we are married. But I was surprised to see him go extra mile for his sweetheart. Everything I told him I wanted for our wedding that he refused. He did triple for his sweetheart. The wedding was like a fairy tale, but we didn't even have a reception for our wedding. Thinking about it now infuriates me. I can't believe I let low of my standards because I wanted to be with someone that never valued me. The more I tried to forget about everything and just move on, the harder it becomes because the wedding pictures were everywhere. From television to magazine covers, everyone kept emphasizing on how beautiful the wedding was. Up till today, it's never known that Smith was once married. Only close family members and his stupid girlfriend, or should I say wife, was aware. He never allowed me to meet his friends. There were no pictures from our wedding, no proof at all. But I have decided to put Smith behind me and just move on. He belongs to my past, and that is where he shall remain. I need to move on to the next chapter of my life. I have managed to save up some money and will be leaving my shameless mother's mobile home soon to a shared apartment. At least not waking up to her face every day will make me heal faster from the pain. I'm trying to be more intentional with myself and forgive myself for the wrong choices I have made. I also tried reconnecting with my dad one more time, and honestly, I'm glad I did. Turns out he is not my real dad. Not that I'm happy about not having a dad, but I finally get closure of the fact that he didn't abandon me as my mom made me believe. He told me my mom cheated on him and pinned someone else's child on him. I was hurt at first, but after a while I gathered so much courage to go ask my shameless mom who my dad was, and she told me she honestly didn't know. Apparently she had an affair with multiple people. She gave me 3 contacts of possible people who could be my dad, but honestly I don't think I have the strength to pursue that. My relationship with my mom never got better. If for anything, it got worse. I don't think I will ever trust her again, but time, they say, is a healer of all wounds. But I doubt if I will ever get over this, but hey, never said never, right?